includes all shades of opinions from the palest pink liberals to the old-fashioned bright red Marxists. But their opinion is that anybody who claims to have an objective knowledge about anything is trying to control and dominate us. Well, right over my head. I don't get that.
If they present the information in an intelligent manner and leave them the decision up to you.
All science does is observe the facts and present a theory based on what they observe. And these theories are subject to change based on new facts. If you find something that contests an old theory, and the best kind of scientist is the one that's willing to admit that he's wrong, when he's found something that doesn't quite work. But this has become kind of an attack. It's not so much more about Darwinism, it's more about people fighting against everybody. Nobody wants to can't we all just get along?
Politics, man.
It was an interesting little article, and I thought I'd bring it to you.
Thank you.
And on a personal note, I was out on the Greenbelt riding my bicycle yesterday, and there was a couple of fellows. I broke down. I had a flat. Wound up with only one tube and 2 holes. So I'm just about to have to walk out of the park. And I didn't get these 2 fellows' names, but they were from a group called the Austin Ridge Riders, and they've got their little bike patrol out there helping people on the Greenbelt. And thanks a lot, guys. You saved me from a long walk. I appreciate it.
Excellent, yes. And on the subject of personal announcements, one of my favorite Austin bands, Reckless Kelly, will be giving a free show at Green Hall tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. Like I say, it is a free show, and they are an excellent band. If you haven't seen them yet, I understand it's a nice drive down there, and there's a lot to see in Green, Texas. I've yet to be to Green, Texas.
Beautiful place.
Is it?
Beautiful place.
I'm looking forward to checking it out. Like I say, it is a free show, and it is one of my favorite bands. So I just want to let you know it's out there. I'm not telling you to go, because I'm not allowed to tell you to go, but I am allowed to give you the information. And you had a personal announcement you'd like to?
Sure, real quick. I'm an employee of American Atheists as well as a member of the Atheist Community of Austin, and I just wanted to say that tomorrow we'll be leaving to go to Washington, D.C., where American Atheists will be hosting the 24th National Convention, and I'm going to be working it and attending. And when I come back, I'm going to be gone from this show Sunday, this coming up, but the next Sunday I'll be coming back with a report.
Yeah.
And it should be interesting. We're going to be doing some pretty interesting things, going through the steps of the Supreme Court, and I should have some photographs maybe, and have a lot to talk about with that. Thanks.
You're welcome. And then one more news article last week here at Delivering Us from Caloric Temptation. I just thought this was quite humorous. It said, pray your weight away. Presbyterian minister Charles Shedd urged readers in 1957 diet book that launched today's multi-million-dollar Christian weight loss industry. Now, a Purdue University study confirms what diet gurus have long preached. Firm believers do not have firm bodies. Christians who are most active in practicing their religion are most likely to be overweight, with Southern Baptists being the heaviest. And Southern Baptist preacher Jerry Falwell is not surprised. He gladly admits that he fits that mold. Ministers have long ignored the flesh while feeding the spirit, says, I guess it's Reverend. They just had the R. I thought there was supposed to be more of an abbreviation than that. But if you go on that, it sounds like God loves a size 6 woman more than a size 16. Well, if anybody knows Mr. Clean, he likes his real size women. I had to bring. So that's the reason this article hit home specifically there. Even those who are saying that the purpose of losing weight is to get their souls right with God are saying that they need to get their bodies in a socially acceptable shape. Sneaking in the back door are the cultural icons of the size 6 body. So it just struck me as funny that even the Christians are that vain that they're going to be that worried that they fit the socially acceptable size of the body and all this. In our opinion, it has to do with lifestyle choices. Your genetic makeup and everything else determines your weight. Whether or not you believe in God or not has no bearing on whether or not you're heavy or because there's heavy atheists and there's thin atheists, just like there's heavy Christians and there's fat Christians and thin Christians. But I just thought that was a really funny article, and I wanted to bring that up. So we'll move on to our weekly segment here of our book review. And this week's book review is entitled the Jesus conspiracy.
You zoom in on that?
And I thought somebody was going to zoom in. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
There it is. Look at that.
And there we go. The Turin Shroud and the Truth About the Resurrection. This author's name, it's co-authored, Helger Kirstein and Elmore R. Gruber. These authors' contentions are that the shroud is a true relic of Jesus there, that this was the actual burial cloth of Jesus, and that the Vatican substituted fake remnants when they were tested because, now get this, the shroud proves that Jesus was not dead when they put him in the tomb, because there's fresh blood after he was placed in there. So when they took him down from the cross, this is this author's contention, because I have serious doubts whether or not there was ever actually a person called Jesus that actually ever existed. That this author's contention was that Jesus was still alive, or that person that was in this cloth was still alive when they took him down off the cross and put him in that tomb. So he was never dead, so he never rose from the dead. And the Vatican felt that this was such an earth-shattering revelation that they put in fake remnants for these scientists to test this. And it was just such an unusual theory there. The book was very enjoyable. It gave an excellent history about the shroud, where it was in history, how it came to be, how it survived the fire back in that one church that it was at, and everything else. So, if nothing else, it's an excellent book about the history of the shroud, the scientific studies that have been done on the shroud, and everything else. So, I don't agree with the author's conclusion that it is a real religious relic, but I did enjoy finding out all the history and the different people that have actually had possession of the shroud, and how his contention is that that is the face of Jesus, and how that is where all the paintings and everything else that now use a face for Jesus, he's saying they all came from that. And so we'd like to make that today's topic is there any true religious relics out there? And if there are, is there any religious relics here in Austin? I would like to go visit if there's any in here in Austin. And I see we have a caller on the line already, and his name is Dave, and let's see if we can find him. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Ray. First off, I would say there's a lot of religious relics. I mean, the Turin or whatever, the Old Testament and the New Testament are religious relics.
You think the actual Testament, the book itself, is
the books are. I mean, it's not to say that they're, valid or invalid as far as being the words of God. It's just that they're ancient works about God, supposedly, and these kind of things.
Well,
I agree with you. I agree with the atheist position that organized religion, causes a lot of harm.
Thank you. I do recognize your voice, Dave.
Yeah. Hey.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Hadn't heard from you in a while.
Good to see you. I'm doing pretty good now, and all that. But I had another topic for you. I don't know if you want to touch on this. I consider myself an agnostic.
All right.
Which is, I don't know what I don't know kind of thing.
Okay.
But I do believe in like a spiritual essence for things, and I know that some people who say they're atheists, kind of feel that way, or at least are somewhat agnostic about the existence of something. They just don't want to take the word of someone else for what that is. Can any of y'all touch on that as far as religion versus spiritualism or spirituality, and how they've been convoluted and distorted.
Well, you want to touch on that, Joe?
I don't see much difference, really. I mean, if you can define religion as the pursuit of, or the actual rituals and everything else that go along with the supernatural part, if there's a supernatural idea involved, then the spirituality part also will fall into that definition. And everything everything that I've seen from spirituality seems to be just basically a refined version of any other religion.
Yeah, well, you're cutting out. I'm having a real hard time hearing you.
So you're cutting out.
You get me at all?
Oh.
Okay, I'll bring this a little closer.
Oh, we're having a microphone, but can you hear him, Dave?
I can hear you real good, but the other two are real soft.
Well, you have to shout a little louder.
Well, we'll just sing out.
Could be.
No.
I appreciate the advice there. So, back to the religious relics. So I appreciate that, your question there or whatever. When we discuss religious relics, there are people out there at one point in time that are actually selling pieces of wood that were actually part of, supposedly, the cross that Jesus was nailed on. There's people that have wood from Noah's Ark.
As long as people are going to be gullible enough to believe in something like that, then I would say they qualify as a religious relic, because I mean it's like the golden calf story.
Right.
That's a religious relic. Granted the Bible calls it pagan and stuff like that, but it's I mean, when you look at the different religions, they're all just cutthroat towards each other, and that's a lot of the source of the problems of organized religion, in my opinion.
I appreciate your opinion.
But do any of y'all believe in anything that's beyond the realm of current science? I mean, for example, or on the edges of beyond the realm of current science,
You mean like supernatural?
ESP, the telekinesis, or any of that kind of stuff.
I believe there's answers that we haven't found yet for such phenomena as you discussed as ESP and telekinesis. But I also believe that there's a lot of fakes out there that are claiming ESP power that are just using old magician tricks and everything else, mind reading tricks and things like that have been out there for years to supposedly prove that they can read minds and everything else. So, but there's a lot to science. Science will tell you they don't have all the answers, but they're constantly striving to find those answers. Whereas opposed to religion, just saying they have all the answers, we're done looking. Here's the answers. Quit looking.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I think is highly another thing that I think is highly destructive about it is like the concept of not challenging or not looking further, not digging deeper.
Right.
That hey, you're challenging the Word of God or something. Which is a ridiculous thing in the first place. Because I mean, if there is a God, I mean, wouldn't God have given us a mind to think? Why do we have so. Why do we have this thing?
And also, the Bible tells you that any other book is blasphemy. If you, the Bible has all the answers, and it tells you right in there not to look anywhere else. And
you're the chosen ones.
They are the chosen people and everything else.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, keep up the good work. Good to see you, man.
I appreciate your call. You have a good day. So we are live June 7th.
Website?
You go right ahead.
Okay, we have a web address, www.atheist-community.org.
And
voicemail?
Voicemail, 371-2911. But I was going to say, Kellen Von Hauser does an excellent job on that webpage. So if you haven't visited our webpage yet, you ought to check that out. Well, I guess I'm not allowed to tell you to check it out. But
well, it's on the internet.
It's on the internet, and she does a great job with it. And it gives current information about us and our lecture series and everything else. So, have have you ever heard any stories about religious relics that you'd like to share with us, Vic?
Religious relics. There was a thing on the Shroud of Turin on TV the other day, but it was quite a long time ago, and I'm not really remembering what all it said. The most recent thing that I saw on television about Jesus was another fellow who contended that Jesus was alive, that his death on the cross was actually faked, so that he could escape and not be pursued by the Romans. Now,
it sounds rather weak of him.
Yeah.
Interesting theory,
right.
yes.
That him and his children, the Diocese said that Jesus had children. And his view was that because that would have been one of the first laws of Judaism was be fruitful and multiply. So he, as a reverend or a pastor or whatever they are, that he would have had to have been married and had children. And that Mary Magdalene was his wife. Now, I don't know enough about this to make much comments, so I want to stay away from that.
That's okay. I mean, you can just make it up as you go along.
Well, that's what they do apparently. So
yes, we had several people. That's how Mormon started. The guy.
Yep, made it all up.
He didn't like what he was doing, so he went out and made it.
However, if I was going to create a religion, the multiple wife thing was probably a good idea.
For a while. Well, anyway.
So
sorry.
Like I said, callers, this is June 7th. We'd love to hear from the callers out there. And today's topic is religious relics in general and the Shroud of Turin in specific, because it just came out. They now just put it back on display again. And from my understanding, the Vatican has agreed to more testing on that. And it's really interesting how they conducted the last test, and I should have marked it. But what the whole deal was, there was only one gentleman that had the samples, and he went into a locked room by himself with these samples, and to accurately calibrate the test, they had other samples mixed in with the shroud mixed in with there. And so this gentleman is the only one that knew which ones were real and which ones were fake. And it was this author's contention that the Vatican put all fakes in there. That's the reason it tested out to 1400s. All the scientists, I think there was actually 3 different universities that did the actual testing, the carbon dating testing, all came back with the same date, the medieval 1400s. And
I mean, what's interesting about that is it's kind of like a backwards excuse. What they did, I think it was 4 universities, I heard.
I'm sorry.
4 of the best universities were handpicked, the best universities throughout the world, handpicked for their ability to accurately date things like this. And so what they found, though, is all 4 of those universities agreed that this was not something from that time period of Jesus. It was obviously much younger, and it was very easy for them to tell that. But this book, I think, is an attempt to come back and say, well, the reason why those 4 universities all together concluded that it was not from that time period of Jesus is because such and such and such, and the conspiracy theorists. But the reality was that the samples were given, and the samples all pointed to a different time period altogether. And I think it's just excuse making. But it's pathetic because, I mean, this is the Vatican, and it's one of the richest entities there are. And they themselves went and handpicked universities to analyze this shroud, and all 4 of them proved it to be not the actual shroud of somebody from that time period, the time period of Jesus. So any books like this have got to be considered an excuse. So apologists.
It's interesting. But my contention is there's no historical proof that. They can't prove when Jesus was born. They can't prove when he died. They can't prove, that he was actually a real person. So how can we have supposedly the burial shroud of Jesus if Jesus is not a real person? I can't explain how that image got on that shroud, because they go into great detail how it's a 3-dimensional image and everything else. So it's quite interesting, and science still can't explain what that image is. And how that image came to be on that particular cloth. So I would love to hear from Austin. Like I say, this is June 7th. We are live, and I would love to hear your opinions on whether or not you feel the shroud is a real picture of Jesus and represents who he really was at that time.
If I could mention something here.
Hello?
Go right ahead.
Well, as an artist, I find it that they're trying to make the Shroud of Turin, it's just all spiritual and everything, to keep it special. I find it a much more special item if we can see it as just a wonderful piece of artwork that's way ahead of its time. Because people just didn't paint like that back then. That's the thing that makes it so unique.
Excellent
Accept
point.
it as that. It's a very special item.
Well, the time of Jesus, then, is what you're referring to.
No, I'm referring to 500 years ago. I mean,
Okay.
there were certainly artists, but not like that.
Yeah, because I understand what you're saying, but Joe was 500 years ago. The shroud was nowhere to be seen in history or whatever else until it just all of a sudden appears, and 500 years ago.
Even the Vatican admits that. I
Right.
found that amazing when I found that out.
Yes. I thanks for your input there, Arlo. And I just thought it was quite funny how much the picture looks like Joe.
Hey, hey, man.
You want to compare?
Don't associate me with that, man.
So,
Making Joe nervous here.
I wanted to talk real quick about an apparition that happened in Austin, actually, a few years ago.
Sure.
It's not exactly a relic, but an apparition pretty darn close to being that sort of thing. It was in East Austin. I forget what street it was on. But it was basically what it was a small church that was next door to a house in the middle of East Austin neighborhood. And there was a fence around the front. And what it was, there was a security light outside on the church that was shining on the front yard area for security. And there was, in the next adjoining house, there was a wall on the side of the house that a shadow was being projected on by this light. And there was a silhouette that came with the shadow, apparently, and it was a silhouette of Mary. That same generic silhouette, the woman with the clothes on. Anyway, very, very vague and generic and ambiguous. And anyway, it was a shadow. And it drew hundreds of East Austinites. And every night for several weeks, they were having to have the police out there because there were so many people crowded around this house, and it was a dead end, fortunately, on the street. They blocked off the street, and I went and visited it one time. This was a couple of years ago, as I said. And I went to go visit it, and I saw the crowd of people. There must have been 250, 300 people there in the street, and they had the street blocked off, and everybody was there. Many people were praying, and there were rosaries everywhere, and Bibles and all this, and everybody was coming to see this shadow. Well, I went to visit it, and when I had gotten there, what had happened beforehand, earlier that day, was the pastor of that little church got a little fed up and turned the light off. And he didn't like the crowd so much. I mean, it's great for Sundays, but 5, 6, 7 days a week got on his nerves, I guess. And he also didn't happen to think that the shadow was as important as the crucifix inside. So he turned off the light, and people still kept coming. And when I went out there was no shadow to be seen. And, there were lights here and there, but that particular light was out. We went up there, and people were still there, and every bit as reverent and hopeful and believing. And I went up really close to see it. And no, sure enough, you couldn't see it. It was gone, long gone, and nobody seemed to care about that part. But I saw it, and I kind of laughed, and it was interesting to relate to other people that it was a sham right then and there. And 250 or so people got kind of annoyed. But they couldn't find their shadow, and also there was somebody there saying, "Hey, it's a sham. Damn it, I wanted to see that shadow, and it's a big fraud. Let's get out of here." And I said that kind of inconspicuously, right? And a few people didn't like it, and I kind of turned around and walked away, and it was a good thing too. But there were more than a few police there, and they were actually having a good time with it. But as I was walking away, I left them scratching their heads, saying, "Wait, he's got a point. There ain't no shadow on the wall. Let's go home." So, got to put a little bit of sense in the people instead of the fear of God. How about that?
Did anyone hear about the apparition in Mexico? I think it was a couple of years ago.
All right.
Someone peed in their hospital bed, and it either made the silhouette of Mary or a cross.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't heard that one, though.
I saw it on the Spanish channel running in here.
Okay.
Don't eat the yellow snow. Okay.
But there's several icons out there that supposedly of Jesus crying and statues of Mother Mary crying. I've actually
the face of God in the clouds as the airplanes pass by.
Yes. So we'd love to hear from anyone that actually owns one of these. Or
I have one.
Oh, do you?
I have the statue. Well, it's a statue of a donkey, and it looks like it's crying. There's some kind of waxy stuff that's over the wood, and it's melting or something. I don't know. I think maybe it's just the same thing with the other ones.
Whoa, party at Arlo's.
Yeah.
Let's get down.
Together at Arlo's house. Donkey worship.
Can I real quick talk about?
Sure.
There's 2 teenagers right now in 2 high schools on either sides of our country now who are protesting their having to recite the Pledge of Allegiance every day in school. One of them is Mary Kate Dukey, and she goes to a high school in California, and which one it is, she's a sophomore, and which one it is, I'll get in a minute. Fallbrook Union High School, and that is in San Diego, California. And basically, she's quoted here, she says, until a few months ago, I stood and faced the flag with my hand over my heart, and mechanically said the Pledge of Allegiance. I love that. This is an intelligent young woman. She's 15, I believe, or 16. And then she goes on to say, but I thought about what the pledge actually meant, and I disagreed with its message. So now she is refusing to take part in that ritual ceremony. And she had some other reasons. She said she doesn't believe in God, first of all, but also she thinks the U.S. government is corrupt and that American society is too violent. So she shouldn't have to show respect for a country that has so many problems. Well, I would say there are a lot of problems with our country. I love my country, however, and would like to try and fix some of those problems. But as far as the God part, no, I don't want to say the pledge because of that alone. That's enough for me. Do you know that it did not have under God in it until like the 50s?
Exactly.
And this is just one person. There is one other student it's in Virginia, near Washington, D.C., and Arlington, actually. And he's also refusing to say the pledge. The thing is, both of these students are being punished also. There has been talk of detentions, and there has even been talk of suspension. And the one out in California is being taken on by the ACLU. And I think it's a great thing. They're actually wanting to help out this sophomore in high school get some justice. And this is something that's already been decided too. That it's been in court cases where it's been decided that coercing someone into saying something that has to do with religion in this manner, pledging to a god under a god, is unconstitutional. It shouldn't be done.
Well, we don't seem to be getting much callers on religious relics here, so let's go back to the RFA. I'd like to know if any callers out there are going to use this vote to determine their vote coming the next election. Christian Coalition has said they're going to be listing this on their scorecard, and so they will be putting out a list of representatives that voted for or against it. And I would like to hear from any of the callers out there that we're going to use this to as a deciding factor on their votes here. We do have a caller online. Let's see what... Good morning, caller.
Yeah. What tells y'all to, like, okay, Jesus told us to come and go and tell about God and all that. Okay, what tells y'all to go and tell and try to, to refuse the existence of God and Jesus? What tells y'all to go do this and to try to stir up the atheist community? What tells y'all to do that?
My own personal integrity of logic and reasoning behind there, I've never been convinced of the fact that Jesus was a real person that actually existed, let alone the fact of the existence of God. How about yourself? How do you know Jesus existed?
Because he left us something called the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost. And once you do make a choice, you just know it's in your heart. It's spiritual.
Kellen, our producer.
Oh yeah, I'd just like to answer the question about what tells us. Atheists are real good at thinking for themselves and don't usually need people to tell them, or anybody to tell them what to do.
Do it yourself.
We think for ourselves and act for ourselves.
Well, that's good because God gave you your own will. You have your own will to do that.
Yes,
but what are you accomplishing by doing what you're doing? I mean, it's got to be. If it's nothing else, I mean, are y'all making money off this show in any kind of way?
We're spending money.
Yeah, the purpose of this was for us to reach out to other atheists. Because one thing I noticed being an atheist all my life was that I pretty much stood alone a lot of the times. And there's no place for other atheists to go. And when I discovered this show, I discovered that there's more than just me in the world. And so our purpose really is to reach out to other people who are of like mind.
Oh, I see. Because like it was said last week, forget maybe the guy on the left there said, these people they need this. They need a crutch. Well, isn't this your crutch then? Don't you just need a crutch?
No,
Again, we're do-it-yourself.
So y'all can reach out to other people and y'all can get together and so, there isn't a God, but we got one another and love the world and just all this, right? I mean, so y'all can crutch one another too,
Our
right?
crutch is to not have the crutch.
Okay. But no, I would like to point out to the caller when you look at the history of religion and the bigotry and the persecution that they have put on the rest of the world based on what they consider God's word, I personally would not want to carry that baggage and admit that I was a Christian. The Christians have killed through the years have killed so many people, put women down. They've used the Bible to support slavery. So, how do you feel about that?
Support slavery?
Yes.
No. The slavery was supposed to have been, no. It's not all Christians that are supporting slavery. Look at China. China's not a Christian, and they're supporting slavery. They get little kids over there to probably make the shirts y'all are wearing. They're not Christian, and they're full of slavery. I mean,
well, that's not what I'm saying.
I can't compare. And as far as proof of God, I mean, I know.
Go ahead.
I know this is a touchy situation. It's a touchy topic. I mean, because most of us seeing is believing. Now, if Jesus were to, really come down and God were to come down and y'all could see him and really see this, then you probably believe. I understand. What Jesus say? He said, y'all, okay, his disciples, y'all see me, so bless y'all. Y'all see me and I'm here and y'all believe in me.
Yeah,
so, good. He said, but even blessed are those that don't see me and still believe in me. He knew this was going to happen. I mean, he knew this. He knew that y'all would be up here and be, start an atheist community. I mean, he knew this was going to happen.
So we're part of God's plan. Our caller has. Our producer has a point here, caller.
I have a question. When I talk to Christians, I always have a really hard time getting them to answer the question and stick to the subject that's put to them. And I can't help but notice that, I believe Ray said that the Bible has been used to justify slavery in this country, and you didn't answer that. Could you answer that?
The Bible to justify slavery?
Yeah, in this country.
Yeah, it was.
See, the Chinese never used the Bible to justify their slavery.
But let's stick to this country.
Yeah, but I'm not going to justify slavery.
But it has been
slavery's wrong.
Attempts to condone.
Yes. We know that today, but in the 1800s, it was a different story. They were saying that the Bible told them that it was
and it
these
does.
were
The Bible
inferior
does
people.
condone.
We're supposed to be servants, but no. Even Jesus. I mean, well, see, it's hard to say because y'all don't even believe in the Bible. I mean, maybe a couple of y'all have read it, but even Jesus went down and washed the disciples' feet to show that was a low place to get down and wash somebody's feet, man.
Let me ask you: did Jesus ever say, "Don't own slaves"? No, I don't think so. Did he ever say slavery was wrong? Did he ever say the Old Testament was damn wrong for saying that you can have slaves? No, he never said anything like that. A real Savior would have. I think he would have said, "Don't kill yourselves over me," too, but he never did. Interesting, isn't it?
Huh. Okay, are you all married? I don't see any rings. It's hard to see.
Divorce.
I'm divorced.
Divorce? That's because you don't believe in God no more. Because
no, actually, my wife was an atheist too.
Why did y'all get married in the first place? Man didn't create marriage. God did.
Well, I disagree.
That means if any atheist, I mean, you get marriage out of the Bible. Man didn't do that.
I got married in a park with the justice of the peace.
That's right. Married and it was legal, right?
Legal. It's secular.
Right. Married, and what did they marry you by? Justice of peace. What did he say?
Hey, many religions have marriage besides biblical religions.
Right.
Probably.
Right, but where did marriage come from? Can you answer that?
Marriage comes from man's pair bonding.
The man gets together with the woman.
It's a genetic.
Right.
Well,
and where'd that come from? The Bible.
No.
Oh my goodness.
The Bible. Marriages are pair bonding has been around for thousands and thousands of years. The Bible's only got like 30.
Cultural system.
All right, caller. I really appreciate your input or whatever. But we have several other people.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure, quickly.
All right. All the archaeologists, they use the Bible to dig up treasures. Okay.
Not all of them. There are religious there are people out there that do that, but not everyone does that. Okay,
right,
go ahead.
Right, but there were. I mean, that's how I got it started. They just wanted for the money, the most part. And then they started, wow, all this stuff in the Bible really is true. So they're digging up all these artifacts that were out of the Bible, and every day they're finding cities underneath the ground that were biblical cities. So do you agree the Bible was written from a Paul and from a man named Matthew and all that? Do you believe that?
No, just because the Iliad mentions the stone, the rock of Gibraltar, doesn't mean that the Iliad it can be, So just because a fiction mentions a place doesn't mean that it comes true. There's tons of works of fiction out there that mention real places. So the Bible mentions a real place. Big deal. It was also wrong about all the other. There was a bunch of places that it was wrong about that never existed. So I'm not trying to be rude, caller, but I do have a bunch of.
It's okay. I hope you do. Your eyes are open someday. I really do, because it's real. It's real, guys. It's real, man.
Please call up again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And let's go on down to John.
How are you doing today?
Excellent.
A previous caller is just, a very good illustration of the fact you cannot read just one book and consider yourself educated.
Thank you.
Okay, God is an construct that men created. Man has always created various gods to explain things that he cannot otherwise understand. In the old days, you would have been considered an atheist if you didn't believe in Thor.
Exactly.
The Christians were first considered atheists by the Romans because they didn't believe or participate in the honoring of the cultural gods of the day. They were considered atheists.
Every natural phenomenon at one point had a god. We had a god of wind. We had a god of rain. God of fire. Every natural phenomenon at one point through history had a god associated with it. And when science debunked those, they started doing less and less gods until they finally came down and said, well, we're going to put one God that does everything, So.
And as far as the historicity of the Bible, there's been some correlation between historical and what is really real. But the Jesus Project that's just recently done some well-publicized research has found that most of the things that are attributed to Jesus, including his walking on the water, were added after the fact.
Yeah, we mentioned that because it was in the paper a couple weeks ago, and we used that article on our show there about the Jesus Project.
Right. So a lot of the stuff, most of the Sermon on the Mount was gleaned from other sources that predated Jesus, sometimes as much as 100 or 200 or more years. Just like there's a lot of places that just like the tale of Sodom and Gomorrah, supposedly they've never found any real archaeological correlations there at all.
The
reason that we're doing this show, or y'all are doing this show, and I'm participating, is it's the pursuit of truth.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
Thank you.
We don't want to sustain these myths. We want to talk about what's really real and not what some people have told us.
And we're not here to tell you what the truth is. We're here to present the information and let you make the decision.
Well, I'm here to pursue truth. That's one of my goals.
But we're not going to tell you what that truth is my point.
I'm investigating it myself, and I take what information you have and what information is presented to me, and I make my own decision. I don't need somebody else to tell me,
Excellent point there, and I do appreciate your call.
You're welcome.
You have a good day. Let's go on down to... Good morning, caller.
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Excellent.
It's my first time to ever call in anything like this.
I appreciate your call.
I didn't think it was really live, so I thought, well, let me just call him. But anyway.
Just to test us, huh?
I was calling mostly because, I don't know your name in the middle.
Ray.
Okay.
Or the Atheist. I've been nicknamed the Atheist. Go ahead.
Okay. I was calling because of a comment you made. You said you didn't, I can't remember exactly what you said, but something like you didn't think God was real or something like that.
I don't believe there was a real person called Jesus Christ. They can't prove when he was born. They can't prove when he died. So they can't even prove he was a real person.
I know. I heard a lady on television one time. I think she was like a Muslim young lady, and she was saying, you know, God has to prove himself to me, blah, 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 but we've got to have faith. But that's not what I'm calling. I'm not calling to argue or anything like that. But I was calling mostly, I want to say something to the guy that called earlier.
Thank you.
It was going on and on and on. All I want to say to you is, it says in the Bible, and you should know this, that no man comes to the Father unless he draws them. So the point is, arguing with them is pointless. I mean, you've got to plant the seed and move on. I myself just got saved 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I'm 35 years old. I didn't believe God was real. I was raised in a Catholic and Baptist home. My parents were divorced.
Right.
My mom was Baptist, and my mom was Catholic. My stepmom was Baptist. Went to church, but didn't believe God was real. I thought that was just something to teach us that to be good. I didn't believe any of that was real. I don't mean to carry on, but the Bible says we overcome them by our testimony in the blood of the Lamb. And I'm going to tell you that it took me seeing that the devil was real for me to see that God was real. I mean, I had a severe... Let me tell you.
Okay, go ahead. But I have a question for you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, well, go ahead and ask me a question.
What convinced you that the devil was real?
Well, when you actually get experienced by the devil where you have spirits in your house, where you hear noises and things falling off the wall, lamps turning on, TVs turning off, my child was being attacked, pinched, and I know it sounds ridiculous because you can't comprehend. It's never happened to you. You have to remember, I didn't believe any of that stuff was real either, but I had some
Because
friends.
your TV turning on and off convinced you that there's a devil, and then that continued on to the existence of God?
It goes much deeper than that.
What exactly do you mean by your child was attacked?
Well, when you have a spiritual attack, sometimes from a demon or something, they will pinch you. It's hard to explain. But the point is, I had some ladies come over. They prayed, and
they performed an exorcist on your house.
No, it wasn't like that at all. They fasted and they prayed, and they told me what to do. And I mean, it didn't happen right away. It took me about a year before I could really take control of the situation. But one day I was standing in the kitchen, and I felt a big rush of wind blowing over my head, and I was like, that really scared me because, first of all, I didn't even believe God was real. You have to remember, I didn't believe any of that. I'm just like y'all. I didn't believe it was real. And I started praying, and believe it or not, God started using me. I would pray for people, and they would get healed. God's really used me a lot in His life. But I'm not calling to convince you. I'm just calling to tell you what happened.
Yeah, and we appreciate you sharing your experiences with us.
You know what? I remember when I used to see Christian people, I go, man, those people are nice. But they don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's not real. That's the silliest stuff I ever heard. And you know what? Now I know when people say that about me, I say, well, I used to be just like that. So I just be patient, and I show them by my example and testimonies that have happened. Even my daughter, I said, go in there. We started praying. She started being happier and everything, more peaceful, and having more confidence that no matter what happened, God was in control. And I said, go in your room. Go in there and pray. Just pray for your school, pray for your friends, whatever. Well, I hear this screaming in her room, and I come in there. It's just me and her here in the house. And she's crying, this uncontrollable crying, and she says, I was praying to my guardian angel. We believe in, we have guardian angels, and she said, I thanked him for all he did for me, and I wanted to know what he looked like. And she said, all of a sudden I saw a man sitting up above me, and she said, I just screamed, it just startled her.
All right.
So she started having experiences like that. One time she was taking a shower, and she was in there for a long time. I remember I was watching the Christian channel. I was going, man, she's taking a long time, but she doesn't do it all the time, so, no big deal. She comes out. She's crying for like 10 minutes. She's standing there with her towel, just crying, uncontrollable crying. I said, well, obviously she's not cut or anything, or nothing's wrong with her, so I just let her cry it out. And she said, Mom, I was in there singing the song. It's a song by Kenny Rogers called Mary, Did You Know? Did you know that your baby was actually the great I am? And she said, all of a sudden, I saw Jesus, and he was holding out his hand to me. And I was walking toward him, but then I got scared, and I went back. She said, I slipped in the bathtub, but something picked me up. She's only like 12 years old. Then she gets out of the bathtub, and she said that she saw 3 little angel girls with little swords standing around her and staring at her. And she said they were just smiling at her, and she came out crying. And she has greater faith because of these little experiences. But before we didn't believe in any of this, so it's kind of hard to imagine. I'm not telling you have to believe. I'm just saying God's Bible says no man comes to the Father unless He draws him. So
I appreciate your input.
But anyway, I just want to tell you, I know how you feel.
All right, thanks again, and please call back. You take care. I don't know if that's the same person because we actually lost line. Yeah, they're back. We lost line 2, so I'm going to line 1. Good morning, caller.
Hello?
Good morning.
Yes, I have a question for the 3 of you all.
Sure.
were any of you all ever brought up in a religious home at any point in your lives?
Yeah, I was baptized in the Methodist Church.
Catholic.
Vic?
No, I have no religious background.
None whatsoever.
No, we went to church a couple of times when I was like really little, but
Okay, so then my question for the Catholic and the Methodist is what something must have happened to turn you against God.
No.
I mean,
No, because they actually baptized us when we were so little that we had no idea what was going on and
but
everything
did
else.
you grow up going to church and believing?
No, I never believed. I went to church because I was made to go to church. When I was old enough to investigate it myself, and I researched the history of the Bible and everything else, and realized what a man-made device that really was, I just realized then that I was right all along, that there was nothing out there.
But you know, one thing about I think there were like two callers before me. The one that was called in about the Bible, and that some of the things weren't true or whatever. You have to understand, the Bible was not some mystical book that just appeared on the earth. The Bible was written by humans, who were inspired by God at different times. It wasn't just some book that just appeared, already written. So of course, then King James changed things to the way that he wanted them changed. But the basic, the basic point of the Bible, which is, Jesus is the Savior, and telling us, what's going to happen. All that has stood the test of time.
No,
well, the Iliad's older than that, and it stood the test of time.
Yeah, and Plato's Republic has lasted without the additions and censorship that the Bible's gone through over the years.
Well, and what would you... the Bible has evolved.
Evolved from monkeys, right?
But no, the point I was getting ready to... Matthew says that there was a prophecy that the Messiah would be a Nazarene. And there is nowhere in the Old Testament do they use the word Nazareth or Nazarene. What would you say to something to that?
Okay, what I would say to something like that, again, is the Bible was written by humans. Of course there's going to be some, there's things that have been taken out of the Bible through time. There's things that, there are different Bibles. It's not just like there's just one, mystical book that has appeared.
Right.
And so I think you can't just use the Bible and try to take like every little word in there.
Well, how can you take any of it then?
Yeah, where do you draw that dividing line? What knife do you use to cut off and say this is fact, this is fiction?
Well, I think it comes through. A lot of it is through faith. Some things in the Bible you can't just take literally.
Faith.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I could never give is that blind faith.
And only one book ever talks about Jesus, and that's the Bible. I mean, if you don't have anything else to collaborate with that, you're starting out with the tautology, which says it was written by people inspired by God, but what God is, the only evidence you have for that God is their writing. So it's a self-fulfilling tautology, so to speak.
Well, I just think it seems like, now I don't know about the third one, the guy that says that he never went to church, but like for you two, the Catholic and the Methodist, I mean, it seems like if you, maybe you really didn't go to church and develop, a faith, because it seems, or something must have happened, to turn you against God, because it's just not likely. It seems like that you three would just, walk around on this earth, not feel, I mean, what do you do for hope?
For hope?
Hope has
where do you
nothing to
get
do
your
with
hope
religion. Hope is just an inner thing.
And it doesn't prove that God exists. I want to say also, though, that I was a strong believer. I was bought hook, line, and sinker. I went to a Catholic school for about 9 years and went to church twice a week for about 9 years. And up until about the 6th or 7th grade, I was pretty much hooked. And when it was a private Catholic school, and they had all the other classes that we went to, too, as well as an hour of religion class every day. It was about 7th grade that they started teaching us physical science. And I immediately had a big problem with religion because of this, and actually it was religion's problem. We would have an hour of religion class where we were taught that the world was created, along with the universe, in 6 days, by a God. And then we went into physical science class and learned a little bit about something called evolution, and the real age of the Earth. And no, in science, in physical science class, even in that Catholic school, they did not try to say the world was only about 6,000 years old. And they also educated us about something called the experimental method. And I put my hand up and said, well, what about God? Do we need to prove that God exists? And the teacher said, no, God is exempt. And so from then on, God lost that whole argument. And he's never come around to argue against it.
Okay, Carl, we're running out of time, but You got anything else you want to say?
No.
I do appreciate you calling. You have a good day.
Thanks.
Take care.
I have to jump in here.
Sure, go ahead, Arlo, quickly.
I just have to tell our viewers, I'm tired of hearing people saying that we are against God. No one could be against God less than a person who doesn't even think God is there.
Good point.
It's very harsh. You can call a Satanist against God, but I think it's not right.
And we're not Satanists.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on down to John.
Hi, guys.
Good morning, caller.
I wanted to address a point that the woman made that was having some weird experiences in her house.
Okay, quickly.
Yeah, right. Well, she was saying that she was just like us as atheists, that she was having these weird experiences and she didn't believe and she was just like us, and it took something like that to convince her. And then she went on to say that when this started happening, she had people come over and pray. Now, speaking for me, and I suspect you guys are the same, if my TV came on and off, and if my child was in need of attention and was saying was being pinched and stuff like that, I wouldn't call a religious person.
Excellent point.
I'd call a specialist.
Right. Call the TV repairman.
Electrician.
There's a lot of people who claim to have been atheists and then were saved again. And I think that a lot of people may have their doubts, but they don't realize that there's a big gulf between having doubts and knowing that there's not a God.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To say, yeah, I was like you guys, but then I had people come over to my house and pray really illustrates that she doesn't know what we are like.
She was probably a believer to begin with.
Yeah, and just maybe wasn't sure for a while.
Yeah, if there's some answer going on, if there's some phenomena going on at the house that I don't know the answer to, I'm not going to go looking for some supernatural explanation.
Because you're an atheist, and you know that explanation isn't going to be.
Everything that she described, they could probably find a reason for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I really appreciate your call.
You bet.
I'm running out of time.
Bye-bye.
She said when wind blew over her head, she prayed immediately. And I don't know any atheists who do that. I think they'd close the window.
Well, we got quickly some callers here. Ruben?
Yes.
Quickly.
I was going to ask you, where do you get your moral values, let's say from you sleeping with your daughter, y'all sleeping with each other's girlfriends or what?
Whoa. Oh, no, you're reaching really hard here.
I know, but where do you get those moral values?
Moral values are something that you've taught from society.
Huh?
Mom and dad,
your parents, what you've grown up with, the experiences that you've had in life.
No, but you don't have to worry about that. So where do you get them from?
No, we do. Parents and teachers,
We're social animals. We communicate with each other.
If you don't believe in God, what's so bad with you sleeping with your own mother?
What? I'm sorry, say it again?
We had 3 people talking. We couldn't hear you.
Okay. You not having moral values or not having to worry about that, where morals come from. What keeps you from sleeping with your sister, your daughter, or your mother?
But we do have values.
All right, we're running out of time. I got to go.
Where do you get them?
All right, let's go on down to Sam.
Yeah, I had a comment about...
We got a minute and a half, quickly.
Well, basically, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on the air and expressing your views.
Thank you.
I've always been, questioning the existence of God since I was little and never really understood. And basically, I wouldn't say that I'm an atheist or disbelieve or not believe, but basically, I don't believe in religion and can see from the past that religion has basically brought nothing but bad things over time. Like you said, slavery. A lot of these persecutions you see in the Middle East right now. It's all because of religion. And I just want to thank you guys for expressing some of the same views that I have.
I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
All right. That, down to the last few seconds here. Go ahead.
We have a website, www.atheist-community.org. We're going to the bagel shop after this on West 5th at Lavaca.
Correct.
Every Sunday.
We do appreciate all your calls out there. We're definitely on a time limit here, and we weren't trying to be rude. Our voicemail is 371-2911. If you didn't get through or you felt you got cut off, feel free to call and leave a message on that, and we'll try to get your, an answer or a point of view or something across there. We do love Austin.
Austin's a great city.
Yes, and we love y'all, Christians, everybody. We're not here to hate you. We love you.
From religion. Thank you.